Thomas in trouble. One day, Thomas and Emily were in for repairs at the fitter's yard. Soon Emily was ready to go back to work, but Thomas had to wait for his final inspection. He was still waiting when James puffed into the yard to deliver some paint. "Bust my boiler!" James laughed. "You've broken down, Thomas!" "No, I haven't," huffed Thomas crossly. "You must have done," snorted James. "Otherwise you wouldn't be at the fitter's yard." Just then, the Fat Controller arrived. "Thomas," he boomed, "are you ready to take the school choir to their concert?" "Nearly ready, sir," puffed Thomas excitedly. "Nearly ready isn't good enough," the Fat Controller replied. Thomas didn't want anyone else to collect the choir, so he decided to leave before his final inspection. "I'm ready now, sir," he puffed, and headed off to pick up his carriages, Annie and Clarabelle. Further down the line, Thomas began to make strange noises. "Clangety-clong, something's wrong!" sang Annie and Clarabelle. But Thomas wasn't listening, and soon he arrived at Knapford Station. "Who's making that nasty noise?" wheezed Emily. Did you have your final inspection, Thomas?" "I'm fine," Thomas huffed. The choir got on board, and he steamed away. Clangety-clong, clangety-clong. Thomas was feeling hot and bothered when he had to stop at a signal. Toby saw that something was wrong. "Did you take on enough water at the fitter's yard?" he asked. "There's nothing wrong with me," replied Thomas crossly. When Percy saw Thomas at a level crossing, he was rattling and steaming more and more. "What's happened to you?" cried Percy. But Thomas didn't like being told there was something wrong with him, so when the barrier opened, he huffed away. Then there was trouble. Thomas began to chuff slower and slower. Steam burst from his boiler, and black smoke flew from his funnel. He had broken down. The choir began to sing while they waited. "The children will be late for their concert, and it's all my fault," he wailed sadly. "I've let everyone down." Just then, Gordon came around the bend. He could see that Thomas was in trouble, but he couldn't stop to help because he had his own passengers on board. Then Thomas heard a whistle. It was James. Thomas tooted as loudly as he could. "Stop!" "Bust my boiler!" laughed James. "I said you were a broken down little engine." "I am," sighed Thomas, "and I need your help. Can you take the choir to their concert?" James was happy to help his friend. "I'll get them there on time," he wheezed. Now Thomas knew he had to go back to be repaired as quickly as possible. Henry was sent to collect Thomas and shunt him to the fitter's yard. Before long, Thomas was as good as new, and this time he waited for his final inspection. "You have been very patient, Thomas," said the Fat Controller. "I have a special job for you. You are to collect the choir and bring them home again." "Thank you, sir," tooted Thomas. Thomas chuffed to the concert, smiling all the way. "Clangety-clong, nothing is wrong," he laughed.